Like New South Wales and Hong Kong and several countries around the world, India too must aspire to an ombudsman or a Jan Lokpal or a Lokpal, or however you want to refer to an independent authority that fights corruption. The question is, what is corruption? All versions of the Lokpal depend on the Prevention of Corruption Act 1988, which says any public servant who accepts or agrees to accept any gratification to show favour or disfavour, render service or disservice to any person is an offender. Despite being 3 pages in length, my guests say the PCA definition is missing a crucial element.
There is a tendency to reduce corruption into a bit of a narrower definition, which is to say that corruption is only corruption if there is money given and money taken. And that's not really what corruption ought to be. Corruption is when decisions are taken by public servants and people in government, ignoring what is right and what is wrong, and doing necessarily what is not right, but for benefits that could be political, that could be monetary, it could be any host of reasons.
In the context of the fact that there's a whole body of judicial interpretation on corruption and corrupt acts over the last 50 or 60 years, one should try and be within the framework of that law as settled, because otherwise once you have a new definition, you'll have a whole new process of interpretation. And that's, I don't think, the ideal objective at this point of time when you're dealing with this cancer.
How do you prioritize which corruption a Lokpal type of body, because that's what this show is about, should go after?
I wouldn't say prioritize, because prioritize is really a function of time. Which one do you do first and which one do you do later? It's more a question of classification and delegation. You have to define, this is what the Lokpal will look after or go into, or this is what some subsidiary agency of the Lokpal will go after, and you have to have a tiered structure to deal with this. If you're expecting all of this to happen in one body, it won't work. You'll be flooded with complaints within 24 hours.
So your argument is that the same body, through different mechanisms,
Correct.
deals with all of
Correct.
these forms of corruption.
Correct.
The same body.
Not necessarily the same body, but the same system.
All right.
The same system. It's the same legal system, or whatever system you're setting up under the Lokpal bill.
Okay. Linked to the issue of different types of corruption is that of jurisdiction. For instance, if the Lokpal is to go after only big-ticket corruption, then it should probably have powers only over the senior bureaucracy, as suggested by the government version of the bill. Who then covers the lower bureaucracy?
The entire bureaucracy must be covered, because, you see, as I said earlier, the extortionary type of corruption is normally indulged in by the lower bureaucracy, and that is where the citizen comes into contact with government functionaries. It's the cutting edge level, really. So if you remove the the lower bureaucracy from this stringent anti-corruption law, then you're not really doing a great service as far as weeding out corruption is concerned.
The only question which people are raising now is that, oh, how can you manage a bureaucracy of 40 lakh? It will become too big. Now, this again is misleading, and this is an argument again put forward by people who are not in favor of this bill. If you have 40 lakh employees, it is not going to generate 40 lakh complaint cases and 40 lakh investigations. Even if 1%, normally 1 or 2%, even if that much successful prosecution takes place in this country, it will be revolutionary. Forget about 40 lakhs. Even if 40,000 cases are investigated, successfully prosecuted, and these guys land in jail, my God, it will be a tremendous change in this country. So there is no reason actually to keep them out. Now, if you feel that the staff will not be sufficient, think of a couple of things. Have you seen the rationing system in India? Ration card to everybody, 1 billion ration cards. Fair price shop within convenient distance for everybody. Supplying that fair price shop with grain. Maintaining the ration cards, filling in the entries, making sure it's given at the right price. It's a huge problem in logistic terms. But the bureaucracy manages it.
I think the government bill takes a correct stand that it should be only up to the grade A employees. Of course, lower employees must be covered. But the cases against the lower employees, excluding the class 4 employees, because class 4 employees should not be covered. I mean, class 4 employees can be dealt with by the existing laws like the IPC and the Prevention of Corruption Act, etc. The bit above the class 4 level and below grade A employees should be the jurisdiction of the CBC, which is a statutory body and which is in operation today. There are some provisions in the CBC Act which are problematic. For example, I mean, the Act says that the government has power to issue directions to the CBC, and CBC cannot act contrary to those directions. Now, therefore, that statute needs some amendments, and the CBC needs to be strengthened.
In 2008, 3 BJP MPs alleged that they were paid bribes to vote in favour of the Manmohan Singh government in a trust vote triggered by the nuclear bill standoff. In 2009, a parliamentary panel recommended a case be filed. That case was charge-sheeted only last month.
Is that the moot point, or are we just here to make cheap shots at one another?
The Jan Lokpal bill includes MPs' corrupt conduct inside Parliament, but the government version excludes it on grounds of constitutional incompatibility. Article 105 guarantees that no member of Parliament shall be liable to any proceedings in any court in respect of anything said or any vote given by him in Parliament or any committee thereof.
All public servants must be accountable.
In view of the judgment of the Constitution bench judgment of the Supreme Court in Narasimha Rao's case, the protection under Article 105 is available to these publicly elected officials in relation to acts done in Parliament. And therefore, you need to find a solution to either amend, because that takes it to a level of a constitutional amendment to actually exclude those acts from that constitutional protection which it today enjoys and has been interpreted by the Supreme Court. That is likely to be a slightly long-drawn process, but one will start working in that direction.
In my opinion, I am in favor that if MPs are found, for example, selling the votes for cash and or asking questions for cash, that they should be, subject to prosecution by the Lokpal. But there is a genuine issue of constitutional incompatibility there.